Yo, what's up, guys? Frankie Forsyth back here with another video. Today, I want to be talking about World War III. A lot of us know it's coming. A lot of us have seen the news, and a lot of us have known this was coming for the past few years, and this is the start of it. What's happening in Israel and Palestine right now is, I wouldn't even say the beginning, but it's going to be the beginning point of the war that you can see with your own eyes, because I believe this stuff started 2-3 years ago, maybe even further into the past than that. But obviously this shit's really starting to heat up. I've seen news coming out that there are Hamas cells all across the U.S. They named a bunch of cities on the watch list, and you can find that on the internet somewhere. Just look it up. I've seen YouTube videos about the FBI and Congress have come out with a watch list for cities in the U.S. where they know that these basically terrorists are, and there's essentially going to be a coordinated attack across the U.S. I don't know when this is going to take place, but as the days progress, it seems more and more likely that it's going to happen soon. You know what I mean? Like I said, the water's boiling. And from what I've heard, not only will there be attacks possibly on civilians, but they plan to target the systems that we have in the U.S., like water systems, Wi-Fi, electrical plants, possibly, stuff like this. So be on the lookout. It's important to keep this information in the back of your mind. Don't let it sink into your skin and live in fear. You don't ever want to live in fear, but it's important to know these things in case they come to fruition. Another thing I want to say is how I said that this war started at least 2 or 3 years ago. It was just silent at the time. And just take note that a lot of people say that, the U.S. has the most reliable army in the world. It has the most technologically advanced army, military, naval systems, air force in the world. But keep in mind that if these big powers that are allied with Iran, the majority of weapons that Iran receives come from Russia. And Russia is allied with China. So that's Russia, China, and Iran, all allied. And China controls so much more of the world than people realize, because they have an economic grip on almost half the world, probably. Most of South America, Mexico, basically under China's thumb, because if they were to cut off supply flow from China, they're fucked. So they basically have to do whatever China tells them to. North Korea, under China's operative. As we've seen, China is attacking Taiwan. Just another thing to boil the water more, just turn up the heat a little more, you know what I mean? And speaking of turning up the heat, I feel like these people are intentionally fucking killing civilians, because there are a lot of protests going on now about how Israel's terrible, because They bombed like a fucking huge refugee camp. They killed children. They killed civilians. All this shit. And there are protests going on in the U.S. The fucking Washington, D.C. was stormed by thousands and thousands of people. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And, yeah. Like I said, there's a bunch of protests and riots going on in the U.S. right now of people that are actually in support of Palestine creating their own state. I understand how people want their own state because they consider themselves their own ethnicity within the Middle East, but there's a certain way you go about things, and the things that Hamas did to start this conflict, taking civilians for hostage. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that they've beheaded children and shit like this. You don't do this shit. You don't fucking take children and behead them because you want your own state. There's some things that you should not fucking do in war. It's absurd. And they should be held accountable for this. Now, do I think it was a good idea for Israel to fucking bomb a refugee camp with thousands of civilians in it to kill like one guy? Like I said, I think they're kind of doing these things on purpose at this point. Another thing. Another thing to keep in mind is how Biden is still in office. Election year is next year. And if the country is in war, a new president can't be elected. So Biden might be doing this, or the Democratic Party might be doing this in efforts to keep Biden in office, keep the Democrats in office. These fucking teenagers are just like speeding, fucking zigzagging through the parking lot. But yeah, man, it's World War III. And another thing, like a lot of people don't know, the last time we had the draft in the United States was like 50 years ago, right? And this was for the Vietnam War, which it wasn't that big of a war. It wasn't called World War III or anything, right? It was the Vietnam War. We went over to Vietnam. We essentially fucking lost because of the fucking... We had no means going over to that land because we fucking... That is a fucking jungle, and that kind of shit, you do not want to fight people who know the land and you don't. Anyways, that's besides the point. That's when we went to fucking... Oh god, they're fucking coming this way now. That's the last time we had the draft. 50 years ago. Back then, there were 750,000 people enlisted in the armed forces, the military, Air Force, naval systems, all this stuff, Navy SEALs. Now, today, there are 76,000 people enlisted. And if the projections are correct, this is going to be World War III. This is going to be a much bigger war. So you don't think the draft's going to be initiated? With a fucking tenth of the amount of people? Just prepare, man. Just prepare. And be aware. In these times. Honestly, if they try to draft me, I'm not fighting this fucking retarded war, man. It's all just, there's a clip of fucking, what's his name, Bill Cooper, talking about how Israel was created to create these problems with religion and all these fucking different large forces on Earth, and to bring it to a war so bad that everybody said, never again, we can never have a war like this again. And this is how they bring about the one world government, and which I do believe is looking like it's going to happen after this war. And I think that's why they're pushing some things like killing innocent civilians and shit like this to fucking get stuff heated up. But like I was saying, if they try to fucking draft me into the war, I'm out the country, bro. I'm out of here. I'm not fucking fighting some war that I really know the fucking secret intentions behind. And they're evil. They just want complete control of the world. Is what they're going to use it for. I'm not fighting somebody else's war like that. Not even on my homeland. If the Iranians come here and these Hamas cells are truly here, I got no problem fucking shooting somebody in the head. I got no problem fighting somebody in hand-to-hand combat. Especially at my fucking doorstep. If they come here to American soil, God help them. I got people I know that fucking can't wait to put a bullet in somebody like that. Anyways, yeah, that's a lot of the information that I have so far. I'll probably make another video on this. I'm trying to pick up the amount of videos I make recently, so yeah. It's a little update on what's going on in the world and my opinions on it, but another thing I wanted to say too, actually. You know what, I'll save that for another video. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace out.